Good evening and welcome to this evening's council meeting. I'd like to call the meeting to order. First thing I'm going to ask for is agenda changes.
Mr. Mayor, we would request that under Section G, Item 3, the financial report be removed from the agenda this evening. Apologies, left that on there. And then I believe Julie has one correction to present to you all regarding the consent agenda.
Yes, Mr. Mayor, on the appointments for the public health officer, those are only one-year terms, so they will expire in 2023, not 2024.
Council, everybody understand that?
Yes.
All right, we'll move on to public forum. I'll open up for public forum at this time. If you're here to address the council, please step to the podium and give us your name and address. You guys can draw straws to see who's going first.
Name and address. Okay. I just have this typed out so I don't get emotional or carried away. So I'm just going to read it. Thank you for allowing me to speak with you guys this evening. My name is Brooke Panzer, address 204 Walnut in Halstead. I would like to voice a concern with you. I'd like to share my story and experiences, followed by what I would like to accomplish by coming to this meeting. My son Eli died in a car accident 2.5 years ago. Before that time, I had visited the cemetery only a handful of times. When Eli died, I was greeted at the cemetery by the sexton at the time, Doug Haight. He helped me choose my son's resting place, honestly, also my resting place and my parents' and my husband's. I had no real understanding on that day just how much the cemetery would come to mean to me, and Doug as a sexton, really. It's my place of healing and peace. I go there very often, almost daily. Taking care of Eli's grave feels like the only thing that I can do for him now. It's how I show my love and part of how I work through this grief. I keep his grave decorated, neat and clean. I have mowed it, raked it, weed-eated it. I clean up the sticks and debris around it. If I notice someone else's flowers or decorations blown around, I pick them up. When I put sod down on his grave, I asked Doug if it would be okay for me to leave a hose at the spigot closest to Eli so that I could easily water it. And I was told that was fine. I used that spigot almost every day all summer last year, as did some other people that have planted grass around his grave also, around their loved ones. The first Christmas after Eli died, I asked if it would be okay if I put some lights out there. Again, was told no problem. There have been light up decorations, not only on Eli's grave, but many others since he's been out there, just the little ones that are like little solar lights. I have tried to be respectful, asking before I do anything different, like the Christmas lights and the sod and that kind of thing. In my daily visits, it didn't take long for me to notice Doug's presence out there. When he was sexton, the cemetery looked nice. It was clean and tidy. I would see him out there all the time. He would stop by now and then, just to ask if I needed anything, dirt put over the grave or seed, whatever. I was always greeted with a wave and a smile. If there was a windstorm, you could bet the next morning, first thing, Doug would be out there picking up limbs and sticks. Recently, there was a burial, and the grave marker and flowers from the casket were thrown over to the side where they stayed for the next 2 days until I went over and put them on the grave. I am sure that this was not done intentionally, but it really bothered me. It felt disrespectful and like nobody cared. This winter, I noticed on several occasions things missing from Eli's grave. First, the light up flower and angel that had been out there since he died. Then the Christmas lights that somebody took out of a sleigh and then replaced the sleigh back on the grave, but just took the lights. And then most recently, the hose and reel that were by that spigot. I do not think this has happened only to Eli. All of the light up decorations that were out there are gone. I have contacted the city 3 different occasions. I was told that the situation would be looked into and that I would be contacted back. That never happened. Once I was even told that I should not put anything that I cared about out there. It feels like nobody really cares about the cemetery anymore. I don't know who is taking the decorations. It feels like sticks and limbs are everywhere. It's like a ghost town. I never see workers out there caring for it anymore. I understand that there are rules out there, and there should be. I know that there are cleanup days and where everything is removed. I spoke with Doug right away after Eli died and asked him to never take anything off of Eli's grave. I keep it nice and clean always. If there are flowers on graves that are there forever, nobody comes back to care for, I understand needing to clean those up from time to time. Please don't think that I'm bagging on the city, guys. I'm not. I don't think that any of these issues are intentional or meant to be disrespectful or hurtful. What I am here to ask of you, number one, is to hire a sexton. Not just a city guy with a million other responsibilities, but a sexton that will care for the cemetery the way it should be cared for, with respect for the people resting there and kindness for those of us who need it to feel like home. There needs to be a person to communicate with out there, and Doug certainly left big shoes to fill. Secondly, if this is an issue of broken rules, such as having the lights out there, planting, watering, decorations, that kind of thing, I don't know what the harm of having light up angel and a few Christmas lights is, or planting grass and flowers, as long as you're willing to keep it up and keep it looking nice. The tree around Eli's grave is a mud hole. I would like to plant something around it, or maybe even put flowers and a bench out there, but I don't even know who to talk to anymore. And I certainly don't want anything else that I buy to be taken away out there. Thank you for taking the time to hear my concerns and frustrations. I hope you will consider filling Doug's big shoes and helping me make the cemetery a wonderful, peaceful place that it should be again.
Guys, anybody have any immediate questions for Brooke? Brooke, I know it was difficult for you to address this evening, and I'll promise you we'll look into this.
Okay,
Thanks for
thank you.
being here.
I appreciate it. I know you will.
I'd like to say a sincerest thank you. I had no idea that any of this was going on.
Yeah. You know, I really don't think that any of it is intentional.
Yeah.
And I don't think that the things that are being taken, honestly, is like a criminal thing. That was one of the things the city said, to contact the sheriff or whatever. And I'm not going to do that, because nothing is being vandalized. Like, even when they took the lights out of the sleigh, like, they were all intertwined in this greenery that was in there, and I stake everything down out there so it doesn't blow away. Like, they had taken it out and untangled the lights, which I'm sure was not a short thing, and then put the sleigh back and staked it back down. So I don't think that it is somebody being malicious or something like that. I just think it's either,
Thanks for bringing it to our attention nonetheless.
Thank you.
okay, yeah, thank you guys.
Thank you. Next.
Hi, I'm Steve Meyer with South Central Recycling. I reside at 1204 Diamond, Newton, Kansas. That's actually in Marion County. I've been recycling since 1991 as a volunteer, even before that. When the county made it mandatory to recycle in 1999, I put a bid in Sedgwick and got that, and then came to Halstead. I think one of the other bidders dropped out by then. And one of the council people, I don't know if anybody here was ever on the council in 1999, one of the council members said, Steve, your bid is for significantly more recycled at significantly less cost. How can you do that? And I started to say, well, I know what I'm doing. And I was going to say, because I'm doing it in North Newton, but he stopped me after I said, I know what I'm doing, and said, oh, good answer. So actually, I think my bid was better in reality than it appeared on paper. I think I did a good job while I was here. And I had rules that I wanted people to follow, because recycling doesn't make a lot of sense without clean recyclables. Eventually, single stream took over. I saw one of the first single stream systems in North America in Guelph, Ontario in 1995. And they were struggling with it. They had combed the world for the best system, because the blue box system was not working for them. And it was never attractive to me to go to single stream. So that was 15 years before anybody in Harvey County did go to single stream. And so I've continued trying to do a good job. And if you remember when Waste Connection started giving static in 2018 or 19, saying that this stuff is too dirty, I was the only one providing clean material to them at the Harvey County transfer station. Everyone else was bringing stuff in that they would not accept or did not want to accept. And so I think recycling can be revived. I can still recycle significantly more for significantly less cost, and I'll leave it at that. I might stick around and see what you guys say on the recycling update. If you have any questions now, that'd be fine too. But.
Council, anybody have any questions?
Do you have a bid that you're wanting to submit? Do you have a bid that you're wanting to submit to the city to do recycling?
Not currently. I
The issue
Just wanted-
is, we may be bound by contract, Brody, where we couldn't accept a bid at this time, but I'm not sure. We'll have to look into that.
When I got the bid in 1999, I did not bid on the trash contract. I bid only on the recycling. Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks. Does not appear that there's anybody else here for public forum, so I'm gonna go ahead and close public forum and ask for the approval of the consent agenda.
Mr. Mayor, as I'm sure all of us have reviewed this, if there are no questions or discussion on the consent agenda, I would make a motion to approve it as submitted.
Second.
Have the motion and the second to approve the consent agenda. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. The consent agenda stands as approved. We have no unfinished business this evening, so we'll move into new business, and item one is a recycling update. And we'll let Ethan bring us up to par there.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Following the vote to discontinue curbside recycling in the city, we did contact Nisley. They are still working and haven't presented the formal contract amendment yet to that, but they have sat down with the logistics. Essentially, you had the map there in your packet, the green zone, which is effectively all the west side of Halstead, everything Chestnut Street West, and then the newer subdivision in Cedar Meadows. Their last recycle pickup date for the single stream curbside will be April 21st, and then residents need to have their carts left curbside and they will be picked up. And then on April 28th, they will do the same for the red zone. So that is basically the logistics we're looking at for curbside pickup. We have put in the newsletter, we're also planning to do door hangers. Because it's our only real way to make sure that we're hitting everybody, asking residents if they know that they're gonna need a second cart to offset the loss of a recycle cart, to contact us now. We keep a certain number of trash poly carts in reserve, but not enough that if, more than 25 households call and want a second cart, we need to get those goes ordered, but with that being an additional fee, we obviously know some people are gonna wait probably to see what this does as far as what they put curbside every week. So that is the plans for recycling, at least to phase it out. Nisley has other recycling customers and they're looking at, other potential or adding recycling customers too, so they have a need for those carts. I know that's a conversation or some calls that I got and fielded from residents were, why can't we just use our existing recycle cart as a trash cart? Those are Nisley's carts. They want their recycle carts back. So, the goal is everybody will be, and Nisley will also have the right to go up, if somebody forgets to, or a house is vacant, but there's a cart, they'll go collect those tan recycle carts on the 21st or the 28th. Depending on which zone you live in. So wanted everyone aware, basically, if you're in the green zone, after the 21st, there won't be recycle pickup on your side, just weekly trash pickup. So that is the update. I assume we will have a formal contract amendment in front of you all at the next meeting. So.
Anybody have any questions, council?
Ethan, if the trash service comes and there's trash in the bin, what happens? Or
As far as trash in a
recyclables.
recycle bin?
Yeah,
They actually will contact the trash hauler and have the trash hauler come dump that recycle bin.
okay.
Or depending on when it's noticed, if it's noticed to the driver before they actually tip it, other times kind of to, the contamination issue of depending on what the contamination is, if it wasn't noticed till after it was already dumped into the bed and it contaminates others, then that whole load ends up going to the solid waste side instead of the recycle side, so.
Okay, so
At the
residents,
transfer station.
so they all have to have everything cleared out and out to the curb and
Yeah, I mean, your recycle on the 21st or 28th, whichever your respective zone is, you can still have your recycle cart full that day of
Okay.
recyclables. They'll dump it, and then most likely, they will have a separate crew that will come later in the afternoon or even on Friday, I think, and pick up carts. So they usually do that with just truck and trailer. But they will dump, or pick up recycling, as far as the cans and what's in them, still on the 21st. Green and 28th red.
Thank you.
Any other questions on that, council? We'll move on then. The next item under new business is safe routes to school, next phase plans. And Ethan's probably got that.
So we are working with Lochner on getting our next grant application to proceed with improvements. So you had basically the priority map and then the restriping plan. When this next phase actually asks, or contemplates improvements to be made. So you can see the 6th and Chestnut. And again, I know, the first question that comes to a lot of people's mind is, there are areas or the sidewalks. There's actually existing sidewalks in those areas. Why we look there first, per the intent of the grant, you're starting with what is the most utilized to school. There's definitely ADA concerns and whatnot along. So the SRTS program kind of starts with a hub and you build your way out. So you can see, the red lines would be what was considered priority 1 in our Safe Routes to School plan. Moving out, they just went one more phase, which would be the yellow. And essentially the city could continue building on that in subsequent years as long as we had funds for the match. And still could relate it back to, routes that are commonly used by children to get to school. Halstead size, most of the sidewalks in town in theory would fall within the distance requirement of a school. The big question though, that was called for and presented is the restriping plan, which is essentially a road diet, that was contemplated. 6th Street is actually technically under, traffic standards too narrow to be a 4-lane road. And so the engineer team, seeing this, said, this allows for dedicated bike lanes. It technically would be a safer use, restriping. The middle 24, this is 36th Street in Harvey County. So I did go talk to the county administrator and their road and bridge director. They're not opposed to the potential restriping of it. They would just ask that if the city is serious about pursuing this, this is, the restriping is well beyond what the county normally does in terms of striping. And so they would want to see some sort of ongoing maintenance agreement that this city understands that increased cost and is willing to pay for that going forward, because it is separate and above what the county normally has done in the past. Again, this is just a plan. It's up to the city as far as what we want to pursue with this grant, but to be fair to Lochner, if, there's no interest in pursuing this restriping at all, it met during the public meeting portion. There were people that liked it and there were people that didn't. So I know historically 6th Street's always been 4 lanes. Again, this is just, in the engineer's opinion of if you're really serious about making the road safer, providing increased opportunity for safe travel along 6th Street. This restriping would do it, as would obviously call for restriping basically for that 4-lane section, which is from Main Street all the way to Halstead Road.
Why didn't the public like it?
Some just felt because it's been 4-lane, it's gonna cause traffic congestion issues, et cetera. I know the engineer's response when that particular, reasoning was brought up was essentially, the street's usually not heavy enough that all 4 lanes are actively used, and in the morning, he said it's essentially functioning like a 3-lane road already. with just cars swinging out, to get around if they're in a hurry or something. So that was his opinion. I mean, it's something really,
So
we could look at
Would
doing
there
a
be room
formal-
to have like a turning lane and two outside lanes and then,
Yeah, basically it would set up, 2 4-foot bike lanes on the outside and then an 11-foot wide, eastbound lane and 11-foot wide, westbound lane, and then an 11-foot turn lane between those two.
okay.
So,
Question for the chief. I'm not able to be here during the day, and so I don't know what's going on with the school as far as traffic and all. Considering if all goes like we hope it does, these developments start bringing in new residents south of town and west of town, we start getting a lot of people, and this proposal, will it handle that kind of influx?
It shouldn't have any bearing on the travel of trucks. The street's still the same street, it'll support the weight of the trucks.
But I'm talking about
Right now,
volume.
your semis are wide enough that you can't get 2 semis going in the same direction anyway, because the lanes are so narrow. So that's not gonna change anything.
But as far as just general traffic during school hours, you don't see a problem with any of that?
Your only challenge is gonna be for 20 to 30 minutes tops when it's pickup and drop off. And that's just gonna take some routing, maybe partnership with the school to figure out good entrances and exits.
Okay.
Limiting the ways people are turning in and out. But it's just a matter of a process that.
And that's the first thing that came to mind, and the second one was the striping, the restriping. Because currently, the county, if we keep it as is, the county pays for their 2 middle lanes, don't they?
yeah, I mean, basically the striping generally is within their center 24 that they maintain, so.
Okay.
This, I mean, the two issues, one is if the city ever would break, at least in my tenure with the city, anytime the county has done work on their middle 24, we have partnered and said, address our excess on Sixth Street as well. But in theory, the city could say, we don't want to do that, county's free to do what they need to do on their 24 regardless of what we do. So we could have chosen not to. Well, in that case, the county's gonna come in and lay, and the expectation would be, you're gonna need, if we had changed this, you're gonna have to restripe that then to get it to match your striping plan.
Right.
Cause the county's not gonna, even though they, laid new asphalt or whatever. And that's more what their ask was, from a maintenance standpoint, if the city was willing, and they would want it to be a formal agreement, obviously, to say, we plan to take responsibility for this, and you can see on it was, I think the last page on the attachments, the Sixth Street restriping plan, you can kind of see the cost they would say there. Pat might be able to give you a better timeline on how long conventional striping would last. I mean, some of it, we've tried some newer things, but with crosswalks, I know we were usually repainting those once every 2 years, usually it seemed. For almost a year. So that's the other is these lines might be apt to be driven on a little more than what is currently striped. But again, this is kind of a big chunk, and we don't want to include that in the plan. We can use that money elsewhere or for other improvements if there is no interest to pursue it. But in the end, it's our plan, and like I said, this was one recommendation of a way to improve and add some, bicycle mobility, dedicated. There's some other factors too, as far as the sidewalk improvements themselves. When we contact Lochner, right now, the majority of Sixth Street has that, I'm gonna say it's roughly probably about a 2-foot grass berm between the sidewalk. We're gonna have to expand the sidewalks and make them wider than their current 4. They'll go to at least 5, but that was another question the engineers asked of what did the city feel as far as keeping that strip? Because they noticed a lot of maintenance issues and stuff as far as if people aren't mowing and maintaining that, you have grow over into the curb and gutter system, or, it overgrows the entire sidewalk because grass starts shooting across the,
I'd like to comment on that part of it, because Ethan, you and I have talked about it a little bit, and to get to more of a standardized sidewalk by today's standards for ADA compliancy, and we would be shifting those sidewalks or keeping the north edge where they are, maybe making it a little wider and coming all the way to the curb. So that grassy area that we have right now, that's kind of a buffer between people on the sidewalk and traffic. If we bring that sidewalk clear to the curb, we lose that buffer. So if we come back and stripe this street and put that 4-foot bike lane, we kind of get that buffer back. So to me, that would be the advantage of changing the striping on the street, is if we put those wider
A
sidewalks.
lot of people
and
use
bring them-
that, even in the dark. A lot of people exercise down Sixth Street.
And it's one street in our town right by the school. It's not like we're trying to do this everywhere in town, so.
You mentioned there's other projects that we might put these funds towards. What other projects are you?
well, just like in general, you know, as far as this, basically what they set out as the priority one was based on what we told them would maybe be what the city could do for a match because of the essentially 75-25 split. So, you know, if we didn't use 30,000 for restriping, that's potentially 30,000 that goes into more concrete work or doesn't even get used potentially too. I mean, depending, because we'll have to have that as kind of our final say. And at the time and with where we were at, we estimated the city had maybe $100,000 to match, which would allow us to basically do almost $400,000 worth of improvements, which unfortunately with the cost of materials and whatnot might not even get us what was originally proposed here anymore. But it was a big thing, and like I said, I've just had preliminary discussions with the county, but mid-May is when these applications would be due, so wanting some feedback from you all of what do we really want to make sure gets included in the plan, or I don't want to, you know, try and get formal agreements with the county and also, you know, loop the school in on this potential change. Because if we get awarded the grant and it's in our plan, I mean, the expectation would be re-executed, so. And there might be some other tertiary changes if it becomes, we'll probably have to look at probably signing both the 6th and Main and the 6th and Halstead Road intersections, probably with either giving a dedicated left turn lane, you know, onto eastbound Halstead, or, I mean, I'll work with Josh and Pat on that, but I imagine with that middle turn lane, we'd turn them into dedicated left turn lanes at the intersection, so, yeah. So,
Well, I think, I don't know what you're needing this evening, other than it's just putting it on the table so discussions can start, but probably ought to, you know, at least run the plan past the school to see if there's any feedback, positive, negative about it.
yeah,
Bring it back up at part of the work session.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking.
They need to,
So maybe we
they
get
need to improve their flow of traffic anyway.
Yeah.
I mean, their middle school principal, but Dennis, you know, you were on the committee too, she was involved and saw this, so, I mean, yeah, I would say most of and their, you know, full disclosure, the part of our phase 1, we didn't do a formal traffic study. This was all basically, they did 2 days of field visits, watched both morning and afternoon traffic, you know, talked to Josh, I think about historical issues, which I don't know that we've had any major, thankfully, you know, accidents or anything like that. So they just felt that this would fit into that whole issue, so.
I know personally, if we bring that sidewalk all the way to the curb, I like the idea of having that bike lane as a buffer zone between
I
pedestrians and
like
traffic.
slowing traffic down a little bit through the school zone too, because,
Which they're supposed to be running 20.
20, when,
yeah, but I think if you only had one lane, it'd be a little more easy to regulate it. So, I don't know.
I like the idea, just the appeal of the look, the new look that it'll have. Because the schools are a business and, you know, whatever's gonna keep the kids safe, that's what we need to focus on.
Any other?
Not hearing any hard objections of
I like it.
throw it out. Okay,
I
so,
actually like it myself.
I do think we need to pull a school in on it though and
Yeah.
and get their feedback on it, especially the restriping.
Anything else on that issue?
I can move forward.
Well, we'll just move on to everybody's favorite issue. Fireworks regulations. I'll let you open that can of worms, Ethan.
Thank you. So just brought this up because, I want to say, 5 years ago? Maybe a little longer. The state essentially changed, and permeated that fireworks sales can happen from June 27th through July 6th, I believe. And Halstead's ordinance was last updated in 2010, where we went July 2nd through July 4th. And essentially, we allow for fireworks to be sold and shot from 8 a.m. to midnight those 3 days. I will tell you, we get complaints on both sides when it comes to fireworks of one that shooting until midnight all 3 nights shouldn't be allowed. But we also get people that complain that our shooting window is not long enough in the city when other cities are they can go to Mays and buy fireworks on June 28th. So as we hadn't visited this in 10 plus years and wanting, if we do make any sort of changes or you guys want us to get information for you, et cetera, that is why it's on the agenda, to say, do we want to make any changes? We're not required to make changes. The existing ordinance has been in effect for these 10 years, 12 years now. So it's basically putting it out there for your all's discussion of whether you would like any changes made or, and I know the state continues to look at things where we might have to revisit again. There were bills regarding year-round sales, this year in Topeka, or opening that up more. The big thing is at least what I've seen the last couple of years is more and more cities around us are expanding that window in their own communities. And so, I don't know that the Lions Club will ever change what they plan to sell, but, we are starting to run into, or at least need to make sure we're still advertising so people know, hey, in Halstead, you can only shoot from the 2nd through the 4th, regardless of the fact you can go buy them on the 30th. So.
Maybe if we extend it a day or two, we can have a compromise, just have midnight on the 4th and then 10 o'clock. That'd be a good compromise.
Yeah, I think it always depends on when the 4th falls. If the 4th falls on a Friday or Saturday, midnight's great. But if it falls on a weeknight, and for those of us who have to get up.
Well, I personally would ban fireworks completely if
I like watch, I go out and watch them, but yeah, I think it all just depends on what days of the week they fall on. Oh, I know.
I would support opening up further to maybe more closely match the other cities around us. 2 days. I love the 4th. It's, my favorite holiday. I love shooting fireworks. My pocketbook doesn't like it, but I would support opening it up wider, maybe 30th, somewhere in that neighborhood, and start there. But
till midnight, though.
no, I think
this seems awful
weeknights stop at 10 or so, but certainly we need to make exceptions on the weekends.
Yeah, I would just say if it, somehow, I'm sure we can write the ordinance that you can shoot them off, and that 10 o'clock on weeknights, midnight on the weekends. And it doesn't matter where the 4th falls then. Because if the 4th falls on a Wednesday, you're shooting it off till 10.
I want to say it was last year, we probably had more activity on the 3rd.
Third,
because everybody's off on the 4th.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that'd be,
Yeah, and it was on a Sunday. The 4th was on the Sunday last year. So,
So that, wasn't looking necessarily for formal decisions, but just so we can get Brad started on any changes we need, and we can, reach out to our neighboring communities and see, kind of what the going going trend is and present that back to you all.
Maybe we'll receive some feedback from the public on this issue.
Newspaper? Never been a big fan of fireworks. We used to go to Mexico, we could buy dynamite. We'd blow things up. So these things, like, they don't excite me.
Any other questions on this topic, council?
Council may not, but I have one. This is a constant. This is like chickens. The one that I would ask you, and you can get input from your constituency, or you can have your own view of it, but whether you want it to be as ours currently is, which is set. It's what it is every year, doesn't change, or do you want to look at it about now, 60 days out, and you pass a resolution? It's not an ordinance. We're not funding the paper to that extent. It's something that I can authorize by ordinance or resolution, that these will be the dates this year, based upon how it falls. I have a lot of cities who will set it up. They, they'll allow sales certain days. If it falls, any of the days within that falls on a Sunday, there's no purchase until such and such a time, because they don't want it during church services. So they'll get into this stuff. And so if you want to have a hands-on approach to it and know that, shoot, every year we're going to have to do this, and that's okay. I say it that way. I shouldn't, because a lot of cities enjoy being able to do that. They can establish what fits that year's schedule the best every year, and they establish longer periods and shorter periods. And as long as they stay within, we can be more strident, not less, than the state, that's up to you. Or if you're like, I don't want to have to think about this every year, and I doubt that any of my successors will either, so that you want it to be a set of dates, then we can do that also. But it makes a lot more, it creates a lot more flexibility if you're in there in that resolution. So
Well, if we look at it annually, it's a matter of a 5-minute discussion. It's not
Right.
like this big, long.
no.
Right.
So
Actually,
maybe that's not a bad idea.
after doing it for as long as I have, George, you will find that that turns into a 45-minute debate about, I hate fireworks. Don't you hate fireworks? You like fireworks. And then there's this back and forth for the next half hour or something that we're never gonna get back in our lives, but that's up to you guys. I can draw it either way. I've got innumerable templates. So it's just, that's the first thing that I usually ask when this comes up and we're looking at revision, get that preference.
I think this council historically, and even with the new people on, will be much easier to work with than other cities that you probably work with.
I'm not gonna comment on that at all.
So I think if we had to visit it annually, it probably wouldn't be a problem amongst us.
No, and most of them get used to it. It's just a matter of remembering the staff remembers to remind you and gets it on there, so. Yeah, I like that.
So, council, do we have a consensus to put this together where we can develop a resolution annually?
Yes.
Would we need to change our ordinance then?
Yeah.
Or city
Yes.
code? Okay, so,
Yes,
yeah.
because right now you're set on those days, and it's been that way for the last 12 years, well, 11 years or so. What we'll do now is change that so that, well, this year, it can run between the statutory dates.
Okay,
And each
okay.
year it will annually be set. I usually say 60 days out, because people want to start calling and going, I gotta know when I can order and have fireworks in if I'm selling at a stand in town. So it's usually something like that, 45 to 60 out, and then you just set it. And again, we do it by resolution, so you don't have to worry about, okay, it won't be effective until it's effective upon passage.
You'll have this ordinance and resolution back to us by July 6th this year.
That's the hope.
All right, any other comments, council? All right, let's move on to work session agenda items. Ethan.
Thank you. I already have one in terms of safe routes to school that we'll add, but I know in our previous work sessions, there have been governing body members that have brought up other topics that they would like to visit. Time-wise, we have essentially the budget conversation. And then sorry, let me pull up the memo here, so I'm not forgetting anything. Maybe. My hyperlink didn't work. Sorry. We have the budget, The budget's gonna be the primarily one, and then also talking, some capital street work, was our other large one, depending on what we hear back on grants as far as topics. So typically, you know, they last about 2 hours. That would give us opportunity for one or two other items that could probably be thrown on the agenda to discuss. So just wanted to open it up to you all, because they are your work sessions, to make sure that if there is a topic that you all would like to visit, that we get that on the agenda, or if there's something that I need to make sure we have, you know, certain staff members present for, or things of that nature, that we have that information for you, so.
Yeah, we could, talk about, the rec and how we're moving forward with that.
Okay, like the softball diamond? Okay.
You want to keep that one hot?
And then maybe follow up on the cemetery, see if we have any solutions for
There
that.
you go.
There we go.
Yeah.
That'd
Thank
be
you.
a great idea. That give you enough to work with for that work session, Ethan?
Yep.
Okay, we have no executive session this evening, which is great. So I'll move on to the report section, and we'll start with governing body. And I'm gonna start with you tonight, Brody.
Nothing tonight, Mr. Mayor.
Denise,
Not anything tonight?
George.
Yes, I've got two things. Regarding the text alert, is that up and running? That we can sign up for? Okay, so how do citizens, do we want to come in? Is there a key on, or
Link?
on the website? Is there a link on the website we can go to and sign up for that?
Yeah, it should be on the very front page, right under the first picture, I believe they have the, sign up for the Everbridge notification. And then that links to the, website to sign up.
Okay,
I've signed up for it and have received some notifications from it already. It works pretty well.
sure, that's,
You get a
so-
text notification, and then you'll actually get a phone call with a voice enunciation. So
So-
it does work pretty
all
well.
right, well, there, that's good. And another issue is, just like with Brooke, she was in here talking about the cemetery. I don't ever get out to the cemetery. There's a lot of issues that us council members aren't aware of. I mean, we can't be everywhere all the time, so I'm asking that if there's an issue, please reach out to any one of us and the mayor. We can handle it if we know about it. If we don't know about it, we can't help you. And that's all I've got to say.
Thank you, George. Josh?
Oh, no, I don't have anything.
Derek?
No, thank you.
Well, I'll just remind everybody that it's becoming lawn season again. Means we all gotta start working in our yards, so don't blow your grass in the street. Julie has went out of her way to find a proclamation for me this evening, so I'd like to deliver that now. And Fair Housing Month is April 2022. Whereas the month of April 2022 marks the 54th anniversary of the signing of the National Fair Housing Act, which prohibits discrimination against any person in terms, conditions, or privileges of the sale or rental of a dwelling or in the provision of services or facilities in connection therewith because of race, color, religion, sex, including gender identity and sexual orientation, family status, national origin, and disability. And whereas the denial of equal housing opportunity is a serious challenge and must be met and surmounted lest it erode the vital social structure that holds a community together. And whereas the need for shelter is an essential human need. And whereas the right to freely choose a place to live is a basic human right, and discrimination in housing is not only against the law, it is contrary to the sense of what America should mean to its citizens and to others. And whereas ongoing education, outreach, and monitoring are key to raising awareness of fair housing principles, practices, rights, and responsibilities. And whereas only through continued cooperation, commitment, and support of all Kansans can barriers to fair housing be removed. Now therefore, I, Mayor Dennis Travis, have hereunto set my hand and signature, caused the seal of the city of Halstead to be affixed this 11th day of April, 2022, and proclaim the month of April 2022 as Fair Housing Month in the city of Halstead. That is my proclamation tonight. So we will move on to Ethan for the manager report.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Council, beyond what was included in the packet as far as, the ongoing, just some highlights. The first is we did receive notification today, actually, regarding our 2 base grant applications. The city was not successful in either grant application. They basically had 440 applications for base grants totaling over 1.8 billion, of which they only had 100 million in available funding. So we unfortunately were not successful on those 2 grant applications there. Then I just emailed this out to you all at your city email. We also got just a market update from KMGA regarding pricing that's been seen in the natural gas markets. Essentially, in the month of March, gas was trading around $4.40 per MMBTU. In April, they're basically seeing anticipated prices of $6 or more, and that's anticipated to last for the foreseeable future. Part of the reason is the colder weather that's forecasted for much of the U.S. through April. Storage levels are also well below their historical averages across the nation. And then the ongoing conflict in Europe and the market conditions there, that's basically calling for higher LNG exports over to that area due to the disruptions. So unfortunately, usually we see gas prices come down in the summer, but that does not appear to be the case. Luckily, usage does decrease, so hopefully it won't impact us as much as it would in the winter. But just so everyone is aware that they are continuing to see higher energy pricing due to those conditions. And that's the other item that hopefully you all, and we finally did receive the new iPads for you all. So we will work to get those set up and to you, we'll give them to you during the work session so that you will have those going forward, but they finally came. So I know everyone was eagerly awaiting getting off the old ones, so. That is all I have. Everything else was in the report in the packet as far as ongoing stuff, so.
Council, any questions for Ethan? If not, we are done with our agenda, so I would entertain a motion for adjournment.
So move.
Second.
Have a motion and a second to adjourn. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Those same sign. We are adjourned. Thank you, council.